Hey, Tracy here. You guys ever lay in bed at night and ponder the important questions like I do? Like, what makes me me? Why are clouds white? Why is the sky blue? Why do birds sing? How do you put shade cloth on a high tunnel? Well, I can 100% guarantee you we're going to answer at least one of your questions today. On today's episode, we are going to be installing shade cloth. So let's go. All right, we are standing in front of the 20 by 100 tunnel today. This is where we're going to put the shade cloth on. So I just got my shade cloth in yesterday, and there are a couple things you want to do first before you go installing the shade cloth. The first thing you want to do is, you notice, like with my tunnels, I always um, uh, put some type of landscaping fabric on the outside around the tunnels, and that serves two purposes. That keeps weeds from creeping into your tunnel, which a lot of people have issues with. And the second thing is that gives me a border to run my lawnmower up against, so that way I'm not cutting into the plastic or throwing in anything into that plastic. So it's always a good deal to put some type of covering on the ground here. I just choose to use landscape fabric. You are going to need a pair of side cutters or a pair of pliers. You are going to need some type of ropes. I use baling twine, but you can use any type of ropes. And what's that for is we're going to lay 3 different ropes down the center and the ends of this tunnel. We're going to throw that across, and what that's going to do is help us carry that shade cloth over. And you're going to need to keep your area clean. As you notice here, I've gone through and I have swept my area on both sides. The last thing you want to do is get your shade cloth caught on any type of twigs or debris or anything like that, and actually possibly could cut your shade cloth or drag it up here and poke a hole into your very expensive plastic. Remember, greenhouse plastic is expensive. Shade cloth is expensive. Both of those are tools in your toolbox to help you grow vegetables. This shade cloth will last you a lifetime if you take care of it and package it back correctly every year. Same with the plastic. There should be no reason why you shouldn't get at least 3 to 5 to 7 years out of this plastic, as long as you take care of it. So let's go ahead and get the box opened up and let's get started. How's this laid out? There's the center and okay. Okay. We got our shade cloth laid out, as you can see down the line. Now you're trying to figure out, well, how are we going to get that shade cloth over the top of that tunnel? That's almost impossible. Yes, it would be impossible. Unless you have some type of Avenger superpower, it would be very impossible. So what we are going to do is we are going to use, what I like to use is just baling twine, because pretty much if anybody lives out in the country has baling twine. If you do not have baling twine, you can pick it up at any kind of feed or seed store. You could use that yellow polyurethane rope. You could use anything you wanted to. Concrete mason's line, anything you want to, as long as it's long enough to get you across a 20-foot tunnel, which is literally 32 feet. So as long as you've got at least 40 feet, let's say, you should be fine. What I like to do is I like to put a little bit of an anchor on it. I wouldn't put anything that's going to cut your plastic in case you can't throw all the way across. Like I wouldn't use a knife or a machete or a samurai sword or anything like that. This is just a piece of 1/2-inch ENT connector clamp, no screws in it. Pretty easy peasy. I like to tie it down to one end, and I will carefully throw this across, easy peasy, across my tunnel. It has now hit the ground. You notice I've got lots of extra. Give yourself lots of extra. On the end of this is what we are going to talk about. Now, I'll bring you in nice and close, whether you want to be or not. So just fair warning. I got these clips from Bootstrap Farmer. They do not come with your shade cloth. It is something that you have to order extra. So if you want to order these, I think they're less than $20 for 20 clips. They're probably less than that. Very, very cheap. Very, very good insurance. What they are is they are a clip here. As you can see, I've got my string tied through the clip on this side here, and they've got little teeth, kind of like a chupacabra or anything like that. And you kind of just clamp this together. So anything that is clamped into that, you also have a hole there, and we'll explain that in a second. This has a good clamping force to help pull you over. Now, this necessarily is not what this purpose was intended for doing this. What this purpose is for attaching your shade cloth to any type of structure. As you know, with this high tunnel, we do have channel here, and we do use a spring wire inside of it, and that is how I like to attach my shade cloth. Here where I'm at in Kansas, I'm literally wide open. We literally have 30 to 50, 60 mile an hour gusts sometimes comes through here. I want to make sure my shade cloth is not going anywhere. So what I've done is I will be attaching just foot long, 6 to foot long pieces of wiggle wire every 5-10 feet. And what that does is that just holds the shade cloth to the tunnel. The shade cloth has millions of holes in it. As you can imagine, the air is going to flow right through it. So you necessarily do not have to be as hardcore as you are with this plastic. What I like to use these clips for is I like to use them to attach my string to my shade cloth here. So like I said, it's got these chupacabra style teeth here. Fun fact about me, if you guys want to know some worthless trivia about me, is I am a huge cryptozoologist fan. Yes, you probably not would have ever guessed that, but I do like me a good ghost story. I do like me a good Bigfoot story, chupacabra, goat man, anything like that. So just some useless trivia if you guys ever wondered. And what that does is it attaches and it gives me a good bite. So when I pull that on the other side, especially since I'm by myself today, I don't have to worry about this coming apart. Ooh, I do need to clamp this. Sounds like my neighbor's got his Harley getting ready to go to work. He's probably going to honk at me. So if you hear him honk, you'll know what that is. So everybody say hi to Bob as he goes by the road. But anyway, what this is usually used for is like this purpose right here. It's to attach the shade cloth to any type of structure. So let's say, for instance, you do not have this hat channel or this wiggle wire and this channel for it, but you actually have a batten board that you have screwed your plastic down to. You can still use these clips. You can run a screw through the center hole here, and you can actually tie a rope through it and tie it through eyelets just like we do here with our batten here to hold the plastic down, and that will help hold your shade cloth down also. That's technically what it's used for, but I'm using it for ulterior motives. So let's go ahead and get pulling. Okay, so we are in the middle here, and we're going to grab, everybody say hi to Bob. We are in the middle of the tunnel here. So what we're going to do is we are going to grab, I like to start in the middle and pull the middle first before I pull the ends. That way I'm not accidentally pulling too much slack to the side there. And you may ask about wind. Yes, I probably would not be doing this in 100-mile-an-hour hurricane wind, of course. But today we've got a light 5 to 10 mile an hour wind, and actually that is going to assist us in getting this over the top. So the wind is coming from the south, which is that direction, going to the north, which is that direction. So we are going to pull this shade cloth the same direction and let the wind be a second person to help us pull this shade cloth over. So you just want to grab your string, just lightly. You can see it's pulling in the background. You just want to lightly give it a pull, just like that. Sometimes it may be a little hard because this is a pretty heavy piece. So you want to give it a light pull here. Very dramatic. Just like that. You can see she's coming over. That's what helps when you don't have any instructions. So that's what we were talking about. Just make sure you don't have a brush pile, your wood pile, a couple old rusty cars, something like that sitting up against that could snag that shade cloth. You can see how those clips actually help pulling that shade cloth across like that. So we have got this pulled down now. So we are going to probably have to tie this off, I would assume, since the wind is blowing. So let me find something to tie this off to. Just like that. Let's go grab the other side. All right. Let's go grab the front now. What makes it easier than that high tunnel out there is this high tunnel has plastic covering all of the sharp bits. So you really, unless you just go all crazy, you don't have to worry about cutting this. On that tunnel over there, since we did the DIY outside tomato tunnel, there is no plastic. It's just the shade cloth to help take the extreme rays off of the tomatoes during the summertime until those trees in my front yard can shade that area. We've talked about that before. So I kind of did that off camera because there was a few choice words that are always said in my vocabulary, unfortunately. And yeah, I didn't want to submit you guys to that. So you just want to kindly just pull down without getting yourself caught in all these strings you got here. Yeah, there you go. Kind of just lightly pull. They do give you a lot of slack. That's the great thing about working with a bootstrap farmer when it comes to this kind of things is, you know, they do provide you, they understand the circumstances that you are in. And so they do assist you with that. But let me get the rest of this pulled. Okay, thanks for watching the video today, folks. That's all I've got. No, seriously, we've got a lot more to do. So important thing is you want to look, like I said, they give you plenty of slack. You notice we've got 1.5 foot of slack here, so that does work out good. What does help me is I have low hip boards. If you guys aren't familiar, this is what a hip board is. What this is where your roll up sides comes to. I didn't think I really needed it to be this high like they do recommend, so I went a little shorter. Plus that makes insect netting availability really easy. So all we are going to do is, I know you guys can't see me very well because I'm getting smaller as I'm walking back this way, but I'm just double checking the shade cloth, making sure there is nothing in its way. I know we've already got this pulled off the ground, but it's always free. Now stand that, it is free to double check your work. So like I said, this stuff is not cheap. This is a investment in gardening. So you want to make sure you completely have no you want to make sure you completely have everything out of your way so nothing is going to come in contact with the shade cloth and possibly rip it and ruin your investment, because that could be about, oh, see the wind? See, we got like a 12, 15 mile an hour gust here, and the wind is really not killing it. It's a little bit here, but you can see the wind. Okay. All right. We are now on top of the high tunnel mountain. As you can see, I've got the shade cloth anchored on one end, and I'm going to show you how I anchored on this end. If you notice, let me get this rolled up. You may or may not be able to see that. See that pipe right there? That is what we call the center purlin. That is the almost true center of your high tunnel. That is where everything is tied into. All your structures, your hoops are all tied into that. So what Bootstrap does, which I'm not sure with other shade cloth companies because I'm not familiar with them. I just purchased my stuff from Bootstrap because of their quality and customer service. So I do know that their shade cloth has that. You see that rib down the center? That is the center of your shade cloth. That's how they measure that, determine if you have a 20-foot tunnel, a 30-foot tunnel, a 12-foot tunnel, custom piece, whatever you're doing, they measure off of that system there, and then you have equal on both sides. So what I like to do is I like to put that rib, I'm going to pull you guys without you falling, I like to snug it just a tad bit. You don't want to go crazy. This stuff is pretty elastic, as you can see, but you don't want to pull it super tight either and then cut it too short, and we'll talk about that here in a bit. So I like to go ahead and just pull all the slack out, which I can see there, and if there is any slack on the end, don't trip out, not a big deal. All you've got to do is pull your piece of spring wire out and then just pull that a little snug and put it back in. So that gives you, I always want to give me at least, I've probably got 3 foot of slack here, but I want to give me at least 1 foot of slack on each side so that way I can have room to pull that stuff tight. Because you know, if you put this on when it's hot, it's going to stretch. When you put this on when it's colder, going into summer, it's going to contract, and then you don't have room for stretch. So you want to make sure that you leave, I don't want to pull this super tight, but I also don't want it just floppy woppy in the wind either. So what I'll do is I will just pull this snug. I will take my spring wire. I like to cut my spring wire into at least 6 to 14 inch long pieces. 12 inches is ideal. And I will find the center of that. And yes, in this channel, it does have a wall and a top in it, and you're saying, well, how many more can you fit in this? Well, in the standard spring wire channel, they say you can fit 3 pieces of spring wire in that channel, which yes, you can, because I've done it a million times. So it does work. It may be a little tight, but you can make it work. So what I do is I just find, you can see how easy that is, just goes right in there. just like that. We've got that in now. So now the wind, once again, this is like having a third hand or a fourth hand, because I've got actually two of these, one on each side, and that is acting like a person actually physically holding this so I can pull my sides down. So what I like to do is I just like to take my side cutters or diagonal cutters, whatever you want to call it, that's politically correct here. We will get this on, we will get down, and we'll start pulling the rest of this down. All right, like I said, you can see how much slack we have at the end here. So what I like to do is on this end wall going up, I like to 100% spring wire that all the way down, because this is what is going to hold your shape. Going down the sides, I put one every 10 feet or so, because actually the air is going to go through it around the tunnel and out. It's not going to pick this up or rip it like you think it would, because there's millions of holes in here, so the air is going to go in and out. But I like to make sure that the end walls are 100% completely covered. So let me get that done, and then we'll move along the side. Guys, we are in the high tunnel. What do you guys think? Looks good, doesn't it? This is the 50% shade. Last year I had 30% white on here, and I just did not think it was enough shade. I had issues with my tomatoes. You guys know that. My tomatoes did not make it last year. They all burned up. All the buds dropped because it got super hot in here. There was a couple reasons why, but this year we went ahead and went with 50% black shade cloth on here to see if it would help keep the ultraviolet rays down just a little bit. You're still going to get the light in here for your sun-loving plants like your tomatoes and your cucumbers. It's just going to make it a little easier on me to be inside of here. When it's 100 degrees outside, it's 120 in here, even with the doors open and the sides up. So you guys do need to keep that in mind. Where we are, we have bluebird skies. Kansas is known for big bluebird skies here. It gets hot in here. It's over 90 degrees right now in this high tunnel, and it's not even 10 o'clock in the morning, and I think it's only 55 outside. So it does, I have seen that thermometer get to 120 in here before. So that's the reason why I wanted to go with a 50% here, and I went with a 30% on the one we looked at earlier when we were out there. But overall, I think everything is great with this. Like I said, shade cloth is an investment. I think it is a warranted one, just like drip irrigation, just like a high tunnel, just like that. I think it's something that you need to work towards on your farm to be successful in your growing. But that's where I'm going to end the video, guys. I got a lot of jazz to do today, so this is just one of the things on my items I needed to check off, and it's gone. So I will talk to you guys next week. See ya.